Good evening, folks. It is time. It is 8 p.m. Eastern. It is time for your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast, and we have a lot to get into this week. Our good friend, R-Truth, is no longer with the WWE, and so we got lots to talk about that because people definitely got in their feelings about that one, so we will see about that. We also have people arriving. R-Truth leaves. We have Mariah May showing up. So Mariah May is also here. So we'll talk about her arrival in NXT. From there, we go on to this weekend. Big shows happening. Worlds Collide, Money in the Bank, all kinds of stuff happening. Get ready, folks. This is going to be a packed episode. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast starts right now.
Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really need is that Big Gold Belt.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being with us here tonight on your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast. We got a packed show for you tonight. It's going to be real interesting because it's definitely an interesting week in the going on in wrestling news-wise this week. So, I am Will in the center of your screen. To my left, we got Silly Sellis here this week, and to my right, the Giant Crab Jamal. Gentlemen, how are you all doing this evening?
Doing good.
Awesome. This is going to be I don't know. I'm trying to think the last time we had a show like this where that we've had news before that gets a reaction. And then there's news that gets a reaction that you're not necessarily thinking is going to get such a huge reaction. But we're going to start off with, by far, this struck a nerve. This struck a nerve big time. So I definitely want to talk about it first. We had the news come out this week from R-Truth himself that after a decade plus, that man been there forever, R-Truth has been released from World Wrestling Entertainment. Sounds like his contract is coming up, and when the contract is up, it is not going to be renewed. And so R-Truth, at 53 years of age, is no longer going to be active on the active roster with WWE. And, of course, this is coming off, he was just on Saturday Night's Main Event with John Cena. Last week, he was just on SmackDown, facing JC Mateo, getting him over with his start, on the SmackDown roster. And here we go, after just ages, one of the mainstays of the company, R-Truth is no longer going to be on the active roster. And my God, if this did not get just a huge reaction online of people are chanting, we want R-Truth. They're saying he needs to have his job back immediately. How could this happen? And I know people love R-Truth. I mean, hell, I love R-Truth. I think we all love R-Truth. Hell, we were very excited about him having this match with John Cena. Then on the other hand, I did not expect this big of an outpouring and just this crazy reaction it's gotten. So, Celis, you haven't been here the past couple weeks. I'm going to go to you first. Thoughts on R-Truth being released, the reaction, just the whole thing in general, and it's kind of crazy. So, what do you think?
Yeah, it caught me off guard a little bit because I felt like when you look at R-Truth and you put the sport aspect in wrestling, he was legit a locker room leader. He was somebody that was there to teach your younger guys, okay, this is how you be a pro. This is how you work on TV. This is how you do Raw and SmackDown. I mean, the small things to make you a better person. In a way, R-Truth was to WWE as The Miz is trying to do to Carmelo Hayes right now and trying to build up some of the younger ones. And I think what R-Truth does, he brings that unique style of what wrestling charisma is, entertainment is, and he found his niche even at 53 years old of what he could do to still be active. Now, for certain people, you may say, well, R-Truth is not going to be anybody that's going to be an everyday person, that's going to be your weekly featured person on wrestling, or is he taking up a spot? But at the same time, he had so much value to the wrestling business of WWE. I feel that WWE may try to bring him back earlier, or maybe just didn't realize the value of what he has. But at the same time, I understand why WWE probably did that, but he's just too valuable to let go. Very sad to see, because he's really come a long way since he came back to WWE when he made that re-debut. Just thinking about some of the gimmicks that he's had or some of the things that he's done. It's definitely sad to see, and I hope he does come back.
Okay, when the news came out, Crab, what was your initial reaction? Because we were just talking about that Cena match last week. And the man's been involved in TV, so it's not like he's been missing in action or anything like sometimes these people are. So I don't know. Thoughts when you heard the news drop?
So my initial reaction, the very first reaction was, why? And then immediately after taking a beat to think about it, oh, okay. Because realistically, what did we talk about? Hell, maybe it was last week. What did we talk about last week? A couple weeks ago. The Cena match at Saturday Night's Main Event is probably the biggest thing R-Truth has done in months, if not this year. And it's June. So realistically, they're not using him for much. Maybe he's a locker room leader, but the locker room doesn't get on TV. So it is a thing, and we know that it's never been a question of whether or not he can still go or anything like that. We were talking about how, he's definitely 50 plus and still looks not a day over 35. But that doesn't really equate to anything in whatever WWE is trying to do. But then again, that's why I came back to my first question of, well, why? Why would you do the angle with Cena? Why would you give him merch? Specialty merch for the thing.
Yeah. But you
set it up on the marquee show for a guy that you never really cared about. And then why not send him down to NXT? Why not send him one of the Talia run in TNA? Hell, maybe he can wrestle himself as R-Truth and Ron Killings. I mean, in a TNA party craziness match or something like that. I mean, there isn't anybody that's going to say that there's no role for R-Truth anywhere in WWE. That's silly. But it felt like, oh, they're doing something with Truth. Cool. More of that, please. And they've hired. Now, that is a thing also. And I don't know this, and maybe you guys do. Did they fire him, or did his contract not get renewed?
It sounds like his contract is... Yeah, it sounds like his contract is running out, and he has been told that it's not going to be renewed. So not a 90-day situation. Yeah, it sounds like they're giving people the heads up that, hey, your deal's coming up. We're just when it's done, it's done. So no non-compete at the end of that or nothing. Just the deal is going to expire.
That is very different. That's a very different connotation of, hey, we're not going to renew your contract, to get out and don't work for anybody for 90 days. And again, it is a contract to contract business. They don't owe him anything. He's been there 17 years, if this article that I'm reading is correct. And the long and short of it is that he's had a 25 plus 30-year career. Truth has been doing it for a long time. And even if it is the end of whatever it is in WWE, we've seen it time and time again that just because it's the end of right now doesn't mean that it won't pick up tomorrow or whenever, because WWE doesn't really give a shit about anybody other than the money. And if Truth becomes a thing and goes to this Drew McIntyre arc and becomes, a guy who they can use, they will absolutely re-sign him again or poach him from somewhere else. So that is kind of the thing, is that was this supposed to be a well-intentioned send-off, knowing that they weren't going to renew his contract? And all right, listen, we're going to do you a solid because you were here for 20 years. Yep. We're going to give you we're going to give you a one-time merch deal, and then book you on the Saturday Night's Main Event, and then when your contract expires in a month and a half or whatever the date is, that'll be that. Yep. Maybe that's his gold pocket watch from WWE.
Yeah, you got a moment on national TV.
Yeah. And then it turns out, and then that's also a thing too, because the story was R-Truth was let go. I think he tweeted out hey, I'm not going to be returning to WWE, and that's very different than Black Trash Bag September.
Yeah.
So
it's one thing to get the 90-day, you're out of here, go and figure out your next move, and we'll pay for 90 days. To not your deal's running out, and just this is the end of things for now.
Yeah.
Now, here's what my immediate reaction was. At first, of course, I think I'm like most everyone. I was kind of like, whoa, you caught me off guard. I just, thinking, damn, R-Truth been there forever. That's someone kind of has that Miz role where they can send him out to do media, and there's, goodwill ambassador type of thing. And the more I thought about it, I was like, what's probably going on is, yes, his active roster run is ending at the age of 53. And at the age of 53, I can totally get that. It's okay. We'll give you this big match against Cena, and that's kind of like your send-off deal. And then from here, now we bring you back under the Legends deal, no longer active roster. You can do all that media stuff. And hell, Lord knows that man wants to do the convention circuit. He will clean up. If he does like the typical Legends thing, the autograph shows and all that stuff. From what I'm hearing, he probably doesn't even need to do that because he was there for so damn long. His contract had to be like absurd. The years of him raking in WWE money. I mean, if he wasn't, I personally, I'm like, the thing was getting these people. A lot of people were like, he needs to get to AEW right away. Tony Khan needs to pick him up, and I'm like, how about let the man take a vacation? Enjoy like the fruits of his labor at 53 with the idea, look, this man was there forever. He's in great shape. He's not banged up as best as we know. Looked great against Cena and all that. It's getting around. And all. It's like, let that man enjoy what he's earned for all this darn time. Before I go on real quick, let me work Cupcake in here. Our good friend Cupcake on YouTube tonight says, R-Truth made the match between he and Cena at 53. He should be working smarter, not harder. I was like, yes, work smarter and go. Let's take him to Hawaii. Let's let him go to the islands or something. Take the family on vacation. The timing's working out with summer here. I want to see R-Truth enjoy some of his hard-earned rewards at this point, is my thinking. Let me throw it back to you, Celis.
Yeah, and I was going to say,
does he need to go somewhere? Does he need TNA would be an easy deal, especially him being a former NWA champion. But it doesn't need. He does not need. I think to be doing serious hardcore wrestling at 53.
No, not at all. And I think he could still be a part of WWE. But let me say this about even him being at 53. This may be a little controversial because of what Cupcake said, but even at 53, I'm not saying he has to be an active performer that does it every week. But let's say if he does wrestle once a month right now at a slower pace, I still think he has about 2 or 3 years left in his system based on how he's moving. And like you said, Will, how in shape he is. But I kind of like the idea that was sparked out earlier. I think NXT could be the way to go as a developmental person that can help some of these younger ones on that roster and maybe have these matches against them. Once again, he's not going to have these 20-minute matches that's going to be on premium live events, but let him, just show the ropes for some of these younger ones. And I think he can still go in the ring. Now, him going to AEW, anything of that nature, nope, not at all. I just think bring him back on a Legends contract, not an active wrestler, or maybe some type of producer gig where maybe he can help with a promo class or help with a character class. Or think about this. What was very successful on A&E, I forgot the name of the show, Futures Greats and Legends Future Greats. Yeah. I think he'll be great on that type of show. Maybe he's on that way of building up some other wrestlers. Maybe he becomes a coach in next season if they bring it back.
Okay. All right. Crab, should he be doing like major wrestling or doing like, the part-time deal, the hitting the indie circuit as far as like the WrestleCons of the world and all those type of shows?
Well, I mean, okay, so it's a cop-out at this point because I say this all the time. He should do whatever he feels like. Because I think at this point, he's earned the right to do whatever he damn well pleases. So I'm reading the post, which was posted on June 1st, and it says, "I'm sorry to inform you all, I just got released from WWE. I want to thank WWE for the ride, but mostly I want to thank each and every one of you who was along for the ride. Thank you for all the love, support, and appreciation you've given me over the years. Thank you." That doesn't scream, I'm done. That doesn't scream, feel bad for me. That doesn't scream, I'm ready to hang it up. But it also doesn't say, I am going to hang it up. It doesn't say, he didn't say, book wrongkillings@gmail.com. If you want me to appear at your show, and I think, who knows what his thought process is, this particular post gets 22 million views on the Twitter machine. It really is the thing, like right now, whatever his status is, wherever he is, somewhere in Carolina, some damn where, if he wants to do anything, literally anything, he absolutely could, because he would be the biggest thing on the indies. He would be the biggest thing on the convention circuit. Yes, he could pop up on TV somewhere and still be in this pseudo character. But then again, that's also, kind of like, well, does he want to be R-Truth or does he want to be Ron Killens? Does he want to be Ron Killens or does he want to be K Quick? He just dropped a country song for of all things recently within the last month, 2 or 3 weeks. Does he want to be a completely different character? He literally has just a treasure chest of options for him. And I'm not going to be the one to pigeonhole him and say, well, he's 53 and we should start the clock. And I don't think it's that way at all. I mean, I think yes, Cupcake, absolutely right. Work smarter, not harder. But smarter in wrestling doesn't necessarily mean less death matches. Smarter in wrestling doesn't necessarily mean that, because it's the type of wrestling that R-Truth was a comedy wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that he's putting on 45-minute classics, in an Iron Man format? Like, no. Does that mean that he's taking crazy bumps? Well, no. But it's also about, him. I think he is working smart right now.
Hell, the Cena match wasn't even 5 minutes long.
Not even.
Yeah.
Perfectly booked. Booked.
But that's also a thing, too. How many wrestlers have we seen injure themselves doing the most mundane things?
Yeah.
Somebody trips their ankle. How many baseball slide drop kicks have we seen that ruin somebody's, kneecap or tears the tendons, muscle off the fibula or something? Whatever R-Truth does next, if he starts up that shop on Pro Wrestling Tees, if he does the comic book circuit, hell, he can appear in StarCast. It's coming up in July. Yeah. I mean, why not? But I think in general, like in all seriousness, whatever he decides to do, I'm down with it. But if this is WWE's send off, like, hey, we don't have anything for you, and we're going to go another way. But before we go, we want to give you a little promo, because that's how they make their money. They make their money on appearing on TV, appearing on bigger matches, appearing on pay-per-views and stuff like that. That's really what it is. And then merch. So let's assume that this was an actual well-intended send-off to give him a downside guarantee to work a program, and with merch incentives.
Mm-hmm.
That's their severance package, right? Realistically, is there a better way that they could have done that, knowing, what he means to the fans and honestly to the company? 17 years in the business, in the company, not even the business, but 17 years in the company. Is there a better way that they could have just done that?
Yeah, compared to the people that we see just disappear, and then suddenly it's like, oh, they're let go, and you're like, oh, damn, they were still there. It's like, this is the closest thing to a send off I think a modern guy is gonna.
I think so too.
Yep.
Especially getting to work the top guy at the moment. He worked John Cena on Cena's retirement tour on national TV. So, what more could he get? I mean,
it wasn't even a match that he worked. It was an angle. It was a payoff to an angle on a B+ event. That's with merch. That's a pretty damn good incentive to do that. And then of course they take the merch down because he got let go and people are pissed. But the long and short of it is that, like, I think that's what the intention was, and then of course that backfired. But realistically, stop counting that man's pockets. You don't know how much money he has, or even if he needs it. R-Truth could open up an ice cream truck, and I would be down for it. Whatever he wants to do.
There you go. To wrap it up from Cupcake, he's in great shape and wants to stay that way. Give him an easy job. I think Truth has an easy ride ahead of him. Mm-hmm. However way he cuts it, the options for him are going to be endless. And I wouldn't be surprised if what's going on here is, okay, the active roster deal is done. By the time we get to next spring, we get to the end of the year, the offer comes in right away. Legends deal plus Hall of Fame induction at Next Hall of Fame in Las Vegas, and bing, bang, boom, we move right into that.
That was actually my next question, and I'll just actually state the question: when does he get into the Hall of Fame in WWE?
If he doesn't, it's not next year. It could be any damn year coming up.
Yeah,
but
say 2 years.
I wouldn't be surprised they do it like immediately next year.
Yeah, I don't see how they don't. Like, announce that shit today. WrestleMania 41 in Vegas again. R-Truth Hall of Fame. Do it. The second question is, what's the bigger surprise, R-Truth or Carlito?
Who? R-Truth definitely, because how I was surprised when Carlito was brought back to begin with.
Yeah.
I was just like, really? Because I got him appearing on the Puerto Rico show, but when they made him a regular, I was just kind of like, I never quite got it why they did it to begin with. So definitely R-Truth was the bigger shocker to me. I was more shocked when they brought Carlito back, personally.
Fair enough.
I think for me, it was more shocking for Carlito because Carlito was active every week as a part of a storyline, a part of a stable, and then boom, he just got dropped. So even though R-Truth seems like it's a bigger impact, our Carlito was really a more consistent person. You saw every week a part of that stable. Now, was he wrestling? No, but he had impact in what he was doing with those little things, but he just wasn't wrestling.
Yeah, I think to a lesser extent, it's a less impactful version of like MVP, where you go, damn, they really let him go. Not in that he was doing so much of the ring, it's just that his impact was definitely felt. He definitely had the presence and a place there. And then they said, no, thank you. But then also you have, with Carlito, yeah, still a more meaningful setting in general, but it kind of begs the question, like, well, what's WWE doing? I mean, are they actually, is this a bit of spring cleaning before they do some, midsummer roster changes, call-ups and stuff? I mean, are we going to see some big-time shifts before SummerSlam?
I think we're starting to see it now. I think we're starting to see it now.
Yeah, they're already moving people around. So, I mean, I think that's a perfect transition for our next topic here, because, hell, we have had, in the past couple weeks, the women of NXT getting moved around very quickly. We suddenly have Julia on SmackDown. We got Stephanie Vakir last week showing up on Raw, now officially part of the Raw roster. We had JC Jane last week, we didn't even get to go into, winning the NXT women's title out of nowhere. So Stephanie could then move on to Raw, and it was just like, whoa. It's like they are moving stuff around. Stuff is happening, and like it was happening very quickly. And the JC Jane title win definitely surprised me because I was like, whoa, what are they doing here? And then it became very clear this Tuesday on NXT when they had JC Jane come out, kind of make her first little announcement as champion and be like, I'm here. And they had the whole roster come out. You had Jordan Grace come out. You had all the girls coming out from NXT, all your regulars, even a couple faces from Evolve. And then out of nowhere, the lights go black. The lights come back up. And Mariah May arrives just like that. The glamour arrives in NXT. No, like, tease of anything. We were already talking, probably she shows up at Evolution, we were thinking, once they announced Evolution, right? Probably in July. Oh, no. They wasted no damn time. And Mariah May is now in NXT, and suddenly JC Jane as women's champion makes a lot more sense now. So, Celis, I'll go to you first. Mariah May and NXT, thoughts, and where do you think they go from here?
So let me back up a little bit for this. So this was the first time I kind of caught NXT live. I've been going through a little streaming thing about going from YouTube TV, and I went for Sling for a while. So for like about 2 or 3 months, I had to catch NXT on the next day as you look at those other streamers and not live. But I finally got a chance to see it live again, going back to Hulu. This is no plug. But when I got the chance to see it live, well, when you had put that in our chat, I was like, I saw it just then, and I thought this was a great way to bring her in. But I think you don't shoot her to the moon yet. I think you really have done a great job of what you've done and resetting and retooling what this next generation of the NXT's women roster will be. Okay, you spotlight your champion and you spotlight the whole roster who could possibly be there. I think put Mariah May at the top will be a mistake. I think she still has to earn her way, maybe through certain matches, win some here, maybe have her lose in a ladder type match where she's still protected, but then have a way maybe by the time you get to the fall with September, October, now you're pushing her to that title. Let some of the other people that you mentioned earlier who's been on these runs try to get a shot at the title so that way you can legitimize JC Jane, because JC Jane's been there about 4 years now, so this is her chance to be at the top. So let her get her chance of making sure she is that top girl in NXT, and don't let this be like a transitional title. Let her have her summer moment, and you see it was little things within her stable that she might be brewing with as a possible feud as well, but let Mariah May slow cook this so we can make sure the WWE fan base, not just the AEW or internet wrestling community or the people by our age, be familiar with it. Slow burn her so that way when she comes up to the main roster, maybe around Royal Rumble time, you got some momentum of who Mariah May is for a bigger scale.
Okay. Crab, here's my question for you. Because this is the first thing I saw online from a ton of damn people. Should Mariah May have gone right to the main roster instead of NXT?
She's blonde. She's attractive. She's blonde and attractive and blonde and attractive with an accent. Why is she not the women's champion already?
Oh,
I mean, I know who Mariah May is. I have no problem with her as a wrestler. I think she's great. But for WWE fans that may not know her, what they do know is that she's blonde and attractive with an accent. So I think that and it just as we've been talking about with R-Truth and the moves that they've been making, not necessarily cleaning house, but just kind of trimming the fat a little bit. They bring in Mariah May, and then they send her to NXT. I don't really get it. I don't. It's not that. It's not. I don't get it because of the fact that this was an opportunity to make a really big splash. And as we talked about recently, the counter programming with AEW, where they just got the other half of the hottest women's feud in AEW history, and they have her. They have her, and they put her on NXT. Go ahead.
Let me ask this, Crab. Just piggybacking off that. Stephanie Vaquer or Mariah May, who would have got a bigger reaction their first time on Raw? I'm going to use Raw because it's Netflix. Who would get a bigger reaction their first time?
I'm going to go with Mariah May because she's blonde and attractive.
With an accent.
No, with an accent. But and again, I know that sounds trite. And they're both great wrestlers, which is sucks that to reduce them to being, to objectify them. But if you don't know who they are, that's all you have to go on.
Yep.
Well, the one with the Hellboy or Dana Brooke with a weird accent. I don't know which one to pick. And nobody's going to do their homework, so you're going to go for who you like. And I'm not saying he's Vince, but they definitely have a type in WWE, and it's definitely blonde and attractive. So they could have done, and even still, even if nobody knows who Mariah May is, they could have brought her out of the ether and said, "This is the next big thing." How many times has WWE done that before? Where they've taken somebody, made them the next big thing, and it may have taken a while, Roman Reigns, John Cena, and then it became the next big thing.
Yep.
I'm not saying that Mariah May deserves that because she's absolutely better than Roman Reigns and John Cena when they started on their path to being the next big thing. She's better now than they were then when they were starting out. And yet she's on NXT. If NXT existed, would Roman Reigns and John Cena gone there first? I can't imagine why they would have if they were destined to be the next big thing. And then the only other reason why I would think that they would do that is because they really don't have room on the women's roster on the main roster to give Mariah May like the package that she deserves, similar to how like Pentagon Jr. got his. But then, okay, cool. Debuted her at Evolution. No? Oh, well, then what is she doing in NXT?
I think the issue was, like we were saying at the beginning, they just moved Julia up. They just moved Roxanne Perez up.
There you go.
And they just moved up Stephanie Vaquer. Right. So they just moved up 3 women between Raw and SmackDown, all off of NXT. So they're like, and it's probably done with the idea that like we can afford to move these 3 women off of NXT because we have a new shiny toy to put in their place now while we move them up. So I'm gonna stick up for Stephanie Vaquer for a second because her Raw, it wasn't her debut because she'd been on Raw recently as NXT champ. They've been featuring her since WrestleMania, but her first official Raw match this week in Tulsa, of all places, she was over like hell in Tulsa this week. Yeah, folks knew who she was, and they were all about her. Her match with Liv Morgan this week was something. So Stephanie Vaquer is definitely, she has gotten over very quickly. with that audience. Now, it'll be very interesting to see how she's received in Money in the Bank this weekend. We'll talk about that in the second half, but she's resonated. She has punched her way
let
through.
me ask you this though:
well.
Does Stephanie Vaquer get the reaction that she gets anywhere? Oklahoma, the Southwest, New Mexico, Los Angeles, Texas. Does she get the same reaction in Seattle? Does she get the same reaction in Boston? I think the crowd down there, which has a lot of lucha libre influence, may be a little bit more hip in Oklahoma, Texas, the Southwest, Arizona, and stuff, because a lot of those guys run down there. Now, I'm not saying that has nothing to do with Stephanie Vaquer as like an actual talent. I think that her work will outshine any of the haters. But if we're just going by what the crowd is reacting to, then everybody's a star when they go to Europe, even when they're not.
Very true. That's true.
So
Good point.
I can't really base on what a smart. I mean, like the timing, of course, is what it is. Like if you're going to put somebody and debut them in their hometown, no, she's not from Oklahoma. But if you're going to debut somebody in a more receptive crowd, then that's one of the tools to use to get them kind of like the perception of them being over, when realistically another crowd, and how many times have we said this after a European show was like, damn, that European crowd went nuts, can't wait for them to get back to Buffalo to see what it's really like.
Right. Yeah, as they go around the horn, that'll be interesting to see. I mean, hell, Money in the Bank this weekend's in LA. So she should be fine there. But like you're saying, in the Northeast, in your northern cities, like the Northwest and stuff, time will tell that story of how the rest of this year goes.
I'm confident in it.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, I think, where we're at with all this. We are about we're over halfway through the show at this point. So let's do this. Let's take our mid-show break. And when we come back, we'll start talking about this weekend, because we got a very interesting mix of shows this weekend between Worlds Collide and Money in the Bank. And who knows what else we'll get into, folks. Stay with us. Your Big Old Belt Wrestling Podcast. We'll be back right after this.
Looking to get your brand in front of people who eat, sleep, and breathe entertainment? Big Gold Belt Media is the place to be. We're all about reporting on movies, TV shows, conventions, and everything in between. And we want your brand to be a part of the action. Partnering with us means your sponsorships get featured right in the midst of our content. Plus, we're going to hype you up on all of our social media, connecting you with an audience that loves discovering new things from trusted voices in entertainment. We're easy to find. Just look for us on Big Gold Belt on all your social media platforms. Don't wait, reach out today, and let's start building something amazing together. Your spotlight is waiting here at Big Gold Belt Media, biggoldbelt.com.
Thanks for being with us here tonight, folks, on the Big Old Belt Wrestling Podcast. This weekend is going to be busy. Hell, it seems like every weekend in wrestling is busy these days, but Saturday in particular is going to be a double shot, and this is a very interesting mix of shows. And personally, for me, the first of these shows is the more interesting of the two. Because Money in the Bank, we know what Money in the Bank is, and we'll get the Money in the Bank. But WWE back at WrestleMania announced that they had purchased AAA, Mexican Lucha Libre, and they would be heading towards Worlds Collide in LA. So we are finally here this weekend, Saturday afternoon, and this is interesting. This is going to be on YouTube. So anyone's going to be able to watch this. This is not like a Peacock deal. It's not a Netflix deal. It's going to be broadcast on YouTube, 3 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. And at this point, we have 5 matches. So going to run this down real quick, then we can give our thoughts on this, because this is very much like almost a Pandora's box. What are we going to get with this show? What exactly is this going to be? So as it stands right now, lined up for Worlds Collide, Legado del Fantasma, Santos Escobar, Angel and Berto versus El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr., Pagano, and Psycho Clown. Yes, Psycho Clown will be on a WWE promoted show. This is going to be crazy. So, also, El Hijo del Vikingo versus Chad Gable for the AAA Mega Championship. That probably is your main event, the way they've been promoting. So that is going to be very interesting. Hijo del Vikingo just beat Alberto Del Rio. Alberto El Patron, however you want to put it, just took the belt off him. So they purposely want the belt on him going into this match. Going to be interesting there how they work that one. Next up, fatal four-way match for the NXT North American Championship. Ethan Page versus Javon Evans versus Laredo Kid versus Ray Phoenix. So we got SmackDown representation, NXT representation, AAA representation, and it's for the NXT North American title. So a little bit of everything going on in that one. Our mentioned before, she will be on the show. Stephanie Vaquer and Lola Vice will be taking on Chick Tormento and Dallas. So Stephanie has double duty, along with possibly Chad Gable if he's on the Americano on a Saturday afternoon. And last but not least, six-man tag again, Latino World Order, Dragon Lee, Cruz del Toro, and Lince Dorado versus Octagon Jr. Aerostar, and who I think might be the breakout star of this show, Mr. Iguana. Yes, indeed. We got trios matches, we got title matches, we got a women's match, we got a little bit of everything on this show. YouTube, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. Crab, I'm going to go to you first.
Mm-hmm.
What do you... I'm not sure where to start with this, but I'm damn curious.
Yeah. I think that this is probably one of the better AAA shows that I've seen them put on this year. And B, it's a good mix for people that don't know what to watch. If you have not heard of any of these Mexican wrestlers, and you have no idea, what's going on or how to say their names, that Chad Gable, that Ethan Page is going to be there, that Vaquer is going to be there, the LWO is going to be there, Javon Evans is going to be there. So there's something to watch there. But then if you have heard of them, and maybe you're south of the border and not too familiar with WWE, because Mexico definitely has their own thing going on, then they have some heavy hitters from AAA there. So it's a really good showcase of it's a really good showcase of AAA, and then it's a really good, a pretty good showcase of WWE, considering that WWE is not extending themselves so much farther than AAA is. They sent the B team out there, realistically. Cena's not on the show, and the biggest and best of WWE is not on the show, but there's still some damn good matchups also. I think that anybody that likes what AAA has been doing and the style of wrestling that they present, this should be a really good exhibition of that. People that, of course, may like the older school, true Lucha Libre wrestling that CMLL presents may go, the hell is this? So I'm not mad at the difference in style. Obviously, AAA is in some, needed to pivot, and they were bought by WWE, and this is the show that we get. I'm okay with it. The question that I had weeks ago was, who is this show for? Is supposed to be a Latin version of Raw that we can expect places. Is this for them? South of the border, Texas, Oklahoma, all the way down to Brazil and Argentina. Is this for that market? And that's why we're not seeing the heavy hitters of WWE. We're not seeing Nakamura or AJ Styles. We're not seeing Cena. Hell,
no main eventers.
We're not seeing our truth. But they're not bringing any legends. They're not, any of that stuff. So this isn't a WWE showcase. This is a AAA showcase. But who is this for? And I do think that it's a little bit of both. The matchups looks interesting. Personally, I really want to see Hijo del Vikingo versus Gable. I just think that Gable is my favorite wrestler in WWE, and Vikingo is amazing. But I wouldn't trade any match for any other. Like, there's nothing that I would cut. There's nothing that I would that should be slight on time. The long and short of it is that this looks like a hell of a show. But the presentation will be interesting, and to see where they go from here. What will the set look like? Will this be a AAA production? Will this be a WWE production? Yes, it's going to be on YouTube in English and Spanish. Are they going to debut a AAA weekly show for an American audience? Will that happen on Peacock? Will that happen on Netflix? There's a lot that we don't know about the future of AAA, and hopefully, in between the 5 matches, they will shed some light on that. So I think this is like a big kind of a litmus test for AAA as it goes forward.
Yeah. Okay. Celis, looking at that card, what stands out for you on this? Because to me, I think the big thing is, like, I think Crab nailed it really good. It's a very interesting mix, and I'm looking at it, it looks really well balanced to me. There's like just a little bit of everything on it, in my opinion.
It is. For me, it's that fatal 4-way match without a question. When you talk about Javon Evans, Ethan Page, Laredo Kid, and Ray Phoenix, I think that might have a chance to still not only the show, but that might be the best match of the whole weekend. When you think about the whole high flying aspect that each one of those can bring, especially with that AAA style, it's going to be really a great taste of what you got from AAA. Somebody's on the main roster that follows in that same format of that Lucha Libre, and then Ethan Page and Javon Evans, just a diversity of the different type of mix that you can do with that match. I just hope whoever wins that match, and I don't think Ethan retains. I think whoever wins that match, make sure you elevate them to be like, okay, this is the next up and coming person. And I'm huge on Javon Evans. I would love to see him win this title. I would love to see him get a recognition in just this type of match. Even though when he was on SmackDown last week, it was a taste of what type of reaction he could get and just the type of wrestling he can as he continues to build because he's so young. I'm really excited to see what that match brings. But then another thing that I'm just interested to see for two sides, for Vikingo and Chad Gable, this is like something that's been brewing ever since that we saw them on WrestleMania to see what Vikingo's going to do as far as him elevating to maybe the Raw or SmackDown side, and then what Chad Gable's going to do playing the double duty, that what he has for his character. I think this is a way for both of them to show out of why they're probably the two best pure wrestlers or just people that could be a part of this business. So I'm just excited to see how that can go.
Yeah, I think what Crab was saying really stands out to me is, is this going to be a WWE show or a AAA show, or will it be a AAA
Agreed.
show with like WWE production values, or just?
Agreed.
I think that's he's like, what side of the coin is going to be more dominant? And I would think it's got to be really important that this needs to feel primarily like a AAA show and not just more WWE, like a WWE Lucha show.
On
like,
YouTube at that too. On YouTube.
Yeah. That I think is going to be the biggest thing. Is just what is like the feel of this? How is it presented? How does it look? How do they promote it? And just, I'm hoping it's predominantly AAA with some, the production turned up some, but I think the last thing I want is a WWE. I don't need the return of Super Astros to take it back to the 90s when WWE tried their Spanish language Lucha show that they would tape before Raw. And so it was in the same arenas, in the same building, but it was like, okay, here's some Lucha Libre guys doing their own thing that's unconnected to everything else. So I hope it's its own thing, but not, I don't want it in the WWE universe, even though there's like a bunch of WWE people on. It's how we have an NXT title match, but I want it to be its own thing, but like, affiliated, but not like in the mix. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We will definitely have a lot to talk about next week after this show, as far as like how they roll this out on Saturday.
Well, do you know who's doing the commentary for the English side?
I have not heard yet. That is a very good question. I think a lot of people, I wonder, you would think they decided by now. I don't know. I have not heard. I'm very, definitely very curious about that. How what is the commentating team? Hell, who's going to handle the Spanish side?
Yeah.
So all of this it's going to be interesting. I like the move of putting it on YouTube, where it's just going to be out there. Just, hey, whoever can have at this, and they're not putting it behind a paywall. So it's like, here's our first step with this. Here's your first taste. Check it out Saturday afternoon. We'll see. Gonna be interesting.
Well,
Any other thoughts?
Yeah. Do you think the YouTube thing is because they don't have a television deal or distribution deal, and they just said, well, we'll just produce the show and put it out there, and then as a showcase, and whoever wants to pick it up based on what the YouTube numbers do, because that's kind of like a bit more transparent than putting it behind a paywall on a streaming network. You know, we can see the social media impact, and we can digest the YouTube numbers and go, okay, Space or Canal Once or ESPN Deportes in Latin America. Hey, this is what the YouTube thing did.
Yeah.
This is what we can do for you.
Mhm.
I'm sure that's it, because I'm sure WWE is looking at it as this is a new product. So we're not just rolling it into any existing deals we have. We want to shop this around. And there's probably also a bit of a hang up with the idea that they're probably leaning on the idea of like, well, this isn't WWE, this is AAA. So this is if you want a piece of this is a new deal we got to make with somebody.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, that's why I'm sure it's why it's not immediately being thrown on Peacock or being thrown on Netflix. It's like this kind of like, in a lot of ways, this is a pilot. Is probably what they're doing.
Exactly.
You know?
But I wonder if that like if they're doing it this way because they know that they have an end with Peacock, which is owned by NBC, which is owned by Comcast, which also owns Telemundo, a big Spanish language channel in the U.S.
Yes.
So there's like a couple of different ways to slice it, especially if they're playing both sides of the border. But I really, because one half seems like a showcase or a pilot episode, the other half feels like, is this Ring of Honor in Espanol? And that's kind of what we were hoping for Ring of Honor. That as soon as they put it out there, the YouTube thing is they just got to put it on YouTube because until the Warner Brothers figure out where they're going to put it on TV,
so they make the deal. Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's been a couple years, and it ain't going to happen. So now with this thing on YouTube, it's kind of like, okay, they're starting off with a bang, but what is that? Is this the showcase to present networks with the deal that they're trying to reach? Yeah,
we will see. And I think the big question this week is just what is it? What does it look like? We'll talk about all that next week, folks. Yeah. So that's just part one of what's going on Saturday. So that's going to be happening at the Kia Forum in Inglewood on Saturday afternoon. And as soon as that's done, you got to move locations.
Across the parking lot.
Not running the same building. Yep, got to go over to the Intuit Dome. Yep. So go across the way. And
it's across the parking lot.
There you go. So convenient in that respect. But also interesting that they are running separate buildings. They're not just doing the kick everyone out and bring them back in. So they are separate venues for these two.
Well, I wonder if because the YouTube show starts at 3 Eastern, the Money in the Bank starts at 7 Eastern, which means that there's going to be some kind of pre-show at 6. I wonder if they think that the YouTube show is going to overrun into the pre-show of Money in the Bank, and that's why it's not a true doubleheader.
With only 5 matches, my guess is they probably want to be done by the time the pre-shows start. They'll go for that 2.5 hour, 3 hour mark. And then how they can have people, and the way they do a lot of those pre-shows with them in the parking lot, they can have the people coming over doing the walk across while all that's going on.
Which also makes me think that the sets are going to be very different between the two shows. Between Money in the Bank and then the other show, there's no time to change the set of either one. Theoretically, because they like to dress up Money in the Bank a little bit with the ladders everywhere and stuff like that. The briefcases and stuff. But with this thing, I wonder, it kind of makes me, from like a production standpoint that we've been talking about, is that the AAA show will be presented in a pretty different way than a typical WWE show.
I hope so.
Yeah, I just hope it's not the Raw set with a bunch of cactuses on it because of Mexico.
Yes, give us something unique, please.
Yes.
Please. All right, so let's look at Money in the Bank, and we can talk predictions here for these briefcases that we like to do. So before we get to the briefcase, there's only 4 matches on this thing at this point. So last chance match for the women's Intercontinental title. This will be the 3rd time we've seen this one. Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch is going down. We have the tag team. This might be a main event, or they might put it between the ladder matches. Who knows? But Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus John Cena and Logan Paul, and kind of just a catch-all tag match with no titles on the line or anything. Just kind of a throw the guys out there and have them do their thing. It feels kind of like a house show main event in a lot of ways. But then, of course, why we're here, your men's and women's Money in the Bank matches. We will run down the women's first. Actually, no, let's do the men's first, because the women's is the more interesting of the two. Let's run down the men's first. The men's lineup: Solo Sikoa, LA Knight, Penta, Seth Rollins, Andrade, and El Grande Americano is your lineup for the men's Money in the Bank. Let's talk about that one first. The lineup that some of these, I was expecting a bit more star power. I was surprised they didn't get Punk in there. They didn't, they're keeping Cody and Jay out of it, keeping Logan Paul out of it. It's a lot of like kind of your B-level people kind of in there. And then Seth Rollins, probably the biggest name of all in the lineup. But it's like Andrade's in it. Solo Sikoa, who just feels cold right now. We don't have Jacob Fatu in there. I don't know. I kind of wanted a little bit more. Celis, I know we were talking forever. There's a guy we wanted to be in this, and he is not in this thing. He is missing.
Nope.
So,
Mr. Kennedy?
what are your thoughts here? Because we do not have old Carmelo Hayes in the Money in the Bank mix.
Yeah, I was disappointed. But let me back up. That match, that triple threat match they had to be the qualifier, I thought it was a great match. Carmelo rocked out. I was hoping that maybe they'll get a last chance person to come in and maybe Carmelo can sneak in because Carmelo just makes the most sense for me.
Mix it up on Friday or something.
Yeah, mix it up on Friday.
Yeah,
maybe somebody, gets bumped out, like Andrade gets bumped out and here comes Carmelo in. But if Carmelo by chance gets in, he's winning it. If he gets in by some way or chance. However, if it stands like it is now, I think a lot of people may think, oh, Solo's going to win it because, this is his chance to skyrocket. I actually think this is your chance where you have a face win it for the first time in a long time because it seemed like a lot of heels win it. I think this is the chance that LA Knight will win it, but LA Knight will win it and probably will have it for a long time into 2026 because I think this is where you have to build up. Where do you think he could cash it now? He may tease himself about, if he goes on Raw, if he goes on SmackDown, about what he might do to get over. But I think this whole Cena thing has to go through, and whoever's the SmackDown champ by that time, maybe it's a Cody Rhodes, maybe it's somebody else. That's when LA Knight will cash in during that time, but it's going to be early 2026.
Okay, before I go to Crab, Damian G is watching from afar. I think this is Knight's third time in the match. I'm guessing it's his time, if no last chance spot. LA Knight. So both y'all thinking LA Knight.
Yep.
All
That's
right.
why me and Damian, we here.
Crab, looking at that lineup, looking at the men, who you think gets the briefcase?
I want to say, based on the nature of the quality of the people that you have, it's probably going to be LA Knight. That just makes the most sense. But I would really wanted it to be Pentagon Jr. I think that they still, yes, he just got there, but I think that they could, in a way, they give him Money in the Bank. That will always be something for him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's that moment. And then you have later on down the road, whatever the cash in looks like. Who does he cash it in on? Because he just got to WWE, that creates a lot of fresh matchups, a lot of things that we haven't seen before. And that's what I would want to see happen. Yes, El Grande Americano, there's something about that guy I like, but, and everybody else. Rollins doesn't need a briefcase. Solo and Andrade as cold as the water I'm about to drink. LA Knight, sure, why not? But realistically, I would say Penta, just because it creates a bunch of different matchups, a bunch of different things that we haven't seen before over the next year, until he cashes it in or loses it. I think that's, I don't think it's going to happen, but that's what I want to see happen.
All right. Cupcake is shooting down the idea of LA Knight. Cupcake says, I hope not the Rock wannabe. LA Knight, I don't know. I was not thinking LA Knight personally, but he's a very safe choice because there's a lot of ways you could go with him. And like Crab was saying, if he gets someone like him gets it, it keeps him in that mix of the top scene for a while, and it gives him a purpose. I worry about Seth Rollins because I'm just like, God, they're doing so much with Rollins right now, and him and his whole group. But it's like it feels like a rehash with Rollins. So
I don't think Rollins needs it. Yeah, I mean Rollins doesn't have going on without it.
Yeah, I agree. Rollins doesn't need it, but I don't know. The men's one is tricky, but LA Knight would be interesting. Penta would probably be the most intrigued. That would give you the most like outside the box possibilities, and Lauren knows Penta is white hot with that crowd. So I don't know. I could kind of also see El Grande Americano just because they're into that gimmick. So who knows? Who knows on that one? All right. Now, the women's. This is the
Yes.
one. This is the one that I think is tricky. There's a lot of directions you can go with the women's one. So to run down the women and the women's Money in the Bank. Alexa Bliss,
Mm-hmm.
Roxanne Perez, who just joined the Raw roster. Rhea Ripley, of course, who's just, powerhouse, been around forever and like in the mix in the top of the title scene. Julia, who just got moved to SmackDown. Naomi, who has been white hot on SmackDown with her heel role. And Stephanie Vaquer, who just got mixed to Raw. So we have the new women that have just been called up are all in the mix, plus the familiar faces like Rhea Ripley, Alexa, Naomi. You have the old and you have the new here. Looking at that, I'm just like, you could really make a case for any of them, I think, of any of that 6. If I'm looking at it, probably Alexa's probably the most outside the box, probably I think has the least chance. But then again, she just came back. So it immediately give her something to do because she hasn't been around only a couple, month or two now. Roxanne, you could do stuff with Rhea. Of course, Rhea don't need it, but you could do it. Julia, Stephanie, same story with either one of them. It's a new face. They're both great. Could absolutely do them. Naomi on the heel run and give her some extra oomph. I'm going to get Damian in here right now. Naomi, this fits her character now, and in the long term of her turning on Bianca finally comes to fruition. Naomi storyline wise, it would give her that extra gas on a great turn that she's already got going on. Celis, I'll go to you first. This is a tough one. This is a real tough one.
Put Cupcakes up there. I know you went to Damian Jean. Put Cupcake up there. I want to give Cupcake a shout out. Let's glow, Naomi. And I think simply stated, yes, you make a case for every one of them. I think this actually opens the show, which makes it even a great atmosphere how good this match will be. But there's only one person that can win it, and that is Naomi. I actually think Alexa Bliss will come in and be a part of this wide 6, and I think that's how she'll get taken out of it. And I think what you'll do with the other 4 competitors, they kind of lead to their storyline. So I can see a Stephanie Vaquer versus, Rhea Ripley, or, you might have it, where the other girls might just get involved in other storylines, but Naomi makes the most sense long term when you think about that triple threat, between Jade Cargill and Bianca when they returns. And what you do is you hold Naomi with that briefcase to when it's right for Bianca to come back from her injury. She cashes in on Tiffany Stratton, and then the next thing you hear is Bianca's music comes out. They have a face off, but then here comes Jade Cargill have a face off. And this might even take place at SummerSlam where you see the cash in come in, and then you got your storyline maybe going into a Royal Rumble season or right before the Royal Rumble, what happens between those 3. Maybe even push it towards Mania if you want to have it for those 3. But I think the only group-wise or the only person-wise that makes sense is Naomi.
All right, Crab, what are you thinking? This the interesting group of ladies in this.
You really could make a case for really all of them, which is why this should be the main event. However, it's not the match that worries me, it's the after that worries me. Because that obviously puts a target on the champion, and who do you want pestering the champion for the next 3, 6, 9 months or so? You really can't go wrong with anybody. I think you guys have made an excellent case for Naomi, and I have no problem with that. But because you guys did, not because I don't believe in Naomi, I really would like to see it be Stephanie Vaquer. It's not that, again, could make an absolute case for all of them, but I think that Vaquer, especially with the AAA thing, especially because we don't know what that's going to be going forward, I think that they are strategically placing her in the middle of a lot of things, because if this AAA thing goes off well, then you have your top female south of the border, right, looking over the shoulders of the champion at any given moment in time for the next 6 months or so. I think that's an interesting proposition to have. But otherwise, you're absolutely right. Naomi not just deserves it, but she's in the storyline position to have it too.
Yeah.
That Stephanie Vaquer idea, that if this takes off the way they're probably hoping, she might very well end up being like the bridge between like the main roster and then the shows going on there which
Yeah.
would be interesting to have her carrying the briefcase back and forth between those shows. But Naomi is the time is right.
The timing,
Yeah.
the character she's
the
going. Oh
stories,
man,
the turn has worked so well. The story is right there. So people have been pulling for Naomi to win it for a long time, but this is you're probably never gonna have the stars align like this again, where it's like the timing is really good. No, I agree. Yeah, this is that. I hope they main event with that. I'd love to see it because that's by far the most interesting match on that show for me is the women's Money in the Bank. All right, we're at our hour. This was a quick damn show tonight because we had a lot going on, and God, we will have a lot to break down next week. We're gonna have 2 shows, and who knows what else will be going on. AEW's done 4 hours last night, and they're gonna do 4 hours next Wednesday. These damn playoffs. We didn't even get to talk about AEW, but you talk about some overkill. 4 hours of shows all on one night. That's what's going on in Jacksonville. So we have to talk about that subject.
It's 4 hours, but it starts at 8 o'clock. Who's sitting
8 to midnight?
Yeah, like
on a Wednesday.
School night. It's still school night for a couple of more weeks.
Exactly. My God. All right. Well, folks, Thursday nights, 8 p.m., your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. It's here live, streaming on X, Instagram, over on Twitch, YouTube. X was a little funky, and I had to hit the button a couple times to get it going. The early part did not want to work. So if you missed out, the show is living on YouTube. You can always check the video feed there in the YouTube archives. For those of you that missed out on X tonight, because about the first 7 minutes or so, the show did not want to connect. There's a lot going on X today. I think that might be part of the problem. We had some glitches tonight before we could get the show up live on there. So the feed lives on YouTube if you're looking for the full show. If you're interested in audio, it also lives on in podcast form on all your favorite podcast platforms. So we got you covered, audio and video, whichever way you would like to hear it. On social media, you can find us at Big Gold Belt across the board, whether it's X, Instagram, Blue Sky, you name it, at Big Gold Belt is where you can find us. And of course, on the web, BigGoldBelt.com, the home of Big Gold Belt Media, wrestling, movies, comics, and more, as we've been doing to wrap up the week as we head into summer. What's the hot... Okay, we don't have the boss man here tonight, so last week we were talking about... the summer blockbusters are coming. So let's see. What came out last week? Last week we were talking about Mission Impossible and all that.
Mission Impossible and Lilo and Stitch.
Anything new exciting this week?
Ballerina,
right? That came out, right?
Ballerina came out tonight. That's going to be the biggest thing this weekend. Also, the Wes Anderson movie, The Phoenician Scheme, with a hell of a lot of people. It's a Wes Anderson movie. So you either going to really love it or you're going to absolutely hate it. But the other thing, because I like to give you an oddball pick, there's an Australian made movie called Dangerous Animals, and it's about a serial killer who lures his victims onto his fishing boat because he gives shark cage dive tours.
I saw the preview for it before Final Destination.
Exactly.
Yes,
so
great. Yes.
Yeah. So he gives shark dive tours and kidnaps them, and then for his own sick pleasures, use these live very lovely college age women as chum for the sharks off the coast of Australia. Rhea Ripley's territory, basically. That looks absolutely insane and horrifying. But between that and Ballerina and the Phoenician Scheme, that's kind of like the biggest things happening this weekend.
There you go. And there's a lot of coverage of Ballerina on the site. So like we were saying, BigGoldBelt.com. And between that and Instagram, like I say, you can find us on social media at Big Gold Belt. Lots of coverage of that I saw from Najir over the weekend. So lots of stuff coming as we head into the summer. Every week there's going to be some
because next weekend is How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Just in time for the kids getting out of school. So
Wife's excited for that one.
There we go. Summer is a coming very quickly. All right. So, folks, we will be back next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, thank you for being here tonight. Next week, we'll talk about Money in the Bank. We'll talk about When Worlds Collide. Who knows what else? We hope you are here with us to chat next week. As always, thank you for being here. Cupcake, as always, so glad to see you in the chat. Those of you watching tonight, hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next Thursday. Until then, have some fun watching wrestling this weekend, and we will talk to you later.
All I really need